Good day, everybody. My name is Coffee Break, and welcome back to the break room where I will once again be discussing the meta game. This topic this time around is going to be Protoss versus Protoss. And when I was kind of getting this video together, I had one build order in mind with a couple of variations. I was sitting there kind of going, I don't know which one would be the best one to do. How do I want to go about this? Because they're kind of two different functions for two different things. And I decided in the end, I'm going to actually split this into two parts. Part number one is going to focus on the aggressive side of this build. Part number two will focus on a little bit more macros and maybe a little bit more defensive style of this build. So, the build we're going to be looking at for Protoss vs. Protoss, the first one at least, is going to be the 2-gate aggression expansion. It's more of a contained build than a, I'm going to kill you off, but it does have the potential to punish extremely greedy players. And it also is good to hold off 3-gate aggressions that are kind of common. It generally will get you a fairly decent scout off and put you in a decent position going into the mid game. So let's go ahead and jump on into this game. I can't remember my hotkeys. There we go. Once again, I am using XSplit, so I'm still kind of trying to remember how everything works here, so I apologize if there's any hiccups. Let's not go on ×8 speed to start at. Well, I guess we can start at ×2. Alright, and also just that you guys know I am monitoring my computer's resources because I do have to stream tonight, and I want to make sure XSplit will work alright with that. So, this aggressive style of the 2-gate opener is great for 2-player maps. In this case, I'm on Akalon Waste, but for general purposes, that's kind of the overarching principle, is that if you know where your opponent is, it's going to be a better map to do something aggressive on. So we're going to go ahead and do a fairly standard opener here. We're going to open up 13-gate and double 15 gas. It's kind of the new Protoss opener in Heart of the Swarm, which I guess it really isn't all that new anymore. Heart of the Swarm has been out for quite some time. Gateway goes down, and also fun little tricks that you can do to impress your friends. Rallying your 13 probe out to make the gateway, rallying the 15 probe out to make the gases, and 1 gas, 2 gas, we're good to go there. I want to talk a little bit also right now about the scouting patterns that I'm doing, or not so much the scouting patterns, but the way I am scouting. This build is going to, for the most part, rush towards stalkers. And so, in that regard, we're going to kind of see what time the earlier stalker will come out. I won't say the earliest, but for the most part, the earlier stalkers will come out, unless they're doing something like a 10-gate and trying to get super fast warp gate to rush you. So this is going to be a pretty standard stalker timing. Pretty standard stalker time. In fact, there's really not much to talk about in this early game here. So I'm going to go ahead and speed this up a little bit real fast. This was a 19-gate. I'm going to come back in just a moment here. I'm going to pull this replay back. And right here, at about 4 minutes and 20 seconds, our first stalker comes out. So my probe is out across the map by this time. So once again, I just want to say 4 minutes, 20 seconds, that first stalker's out. I'm going to pull this back here, I don't know, to 3 minutes or so. Here's a couple other things I want to touch on real fast. But that's a very important point to make, because in Protoss vs. Protoss, one thing that's obviously extremely popular, proxies. You want to be able to watch out for proxy gateways, so especially on, once again, these 2-player maps when you always know where your opponent is, scout for proxy locations. Scout over here in your natural expansion, scout in your potential third bases. I didn't do that quite so well in this game, but for the most part, you'll have time, scout over here, scout in your natural, scout in the other third base, and I always try to hit up a watchtower just in case, because occasionally people will do this. In this case, I ran over to my natural, went into my third, checked there, hit a watchtower, and then came over to my opponent's base, and I am still here 1 minute, 1 full minute before the first stalker will even be on the field. I think that's a really good point to make, because a lot of time people will send their first scout out immediately to see what's going on. I have to know right now what's going on, and there really isn't much to scout. Even if we look now, we are, again, 1 minute before that stalker comes out, really not that much on the map right now. In fact, this is about the time that you'd be starting to get an idea of, okay, oh, my opponent isn't getting his second gas. It looks like he's going to be 4-gating me or doing some really stupid expansion. Generally the 4-gate. If they only have 2 gases, it's time to start freaking out and laying down additional gateways. In this case, just like when I did it for the Protoss versus Zerg matchup, I'm just putting myself against a very easy AI on an economic focus just so he doesn't bother me. Coming back over to my base, if we're going to scouting a little bit, coming back over to my base, we're going to see me go and lay down a 19 gateway here. You'll notice I am beginning to save up Chrono Boost. I have about 3 Chrono Boosts saved up right now. And right on the completion of the Cybernetics Core, Gateway Tech, boom! Chrono Boost. Stalker, boom! Chrono Boost. You want to make sure to only Chrono Boost your Nexus twice in the early game. And as a general note, just try to keep this probe alive. It's just kind of nice in general. Obviously you're not going to want to get him killed, but it works a little bit better if he does stay alive. Mothership Core, you're going to cut probes for a second or two, get that Mothership Core out. You do not need to Chrono Boost this. In fact, do not Chrono Boost this, because we'll notice 50 energy right there. What just happened at 50 energy? Well, my second gateway finished up. And you're going to see that I'm going to begin a Stalker at one of these 2 gateways first. 1 Stalker is going to pop out, 100 gas there. Come on, come on. I'm falling a little behind on this build order. 1 Stalker, 2 Stalkers, Chrono Boost on each of these gateways. They're going to be rallied out to this Stalker. Now, you're going to want to use your first Stalker to run around a little bit, look for probes, look for forward pylons of your opponent, see if they're going to be doing something aggressive as well. At this point, we've already scouted, okay, there's no proxies, but you want to make sure that he's not going to be trying a warp gate timing as well. If he is, you can choose to defend or attack. It is your choice. First 2 Stalkers pop out there, immediately going out across the map. Notice that I rallied this Mothership Core immediately across the map as soon as it was finished, because it takes so much longer for that Mothership Core to get pushing out. At this point, your Chrono Boost, generally you're going to want to spend those on getting your Warp Gate research up and running, just because this is a fairly aggressive build. It's not a super all-in build, as you can see here. And I'll talk about this next in just a second. But it is a fairly aggressive build. I'm just going to push up this ramp here. Not much is going to happen. It's just, once again, a very easy AI. But at this point, you're going to want to try some fancy micro tricks versus your real-life opponents. And for the most part, you're not looking to kill them here. In this case, my opponent did a really fast Nexus. I could probably kill them off if I wanted to, but you're generally not going to see this. You're going to be warping in Stalkers and Zealots off of your 2 gateways, kind of pushing up, and do not try to force your way up this ramp under any means. Do not force your way into your opponent's base. If nothing else, you sit right outside here, and you can stop him from running around down this ramp. You can stop him from expanding, and you'll get an idea of what his unit count is. You can use this Mothership Core for Time Warp to try to pick off a unit or 2, and you can see I have 100 energy here. I can use that to recall if I start getting under a little bit of fire. But for the most part, you're just here to contain your opponent. Looking back home, you're seeing I'm laying down an expansion. I know that this is safe because I'm up in my opponent's base right now. I can see his unit count. I can see what's going on, and I can get back home if I really need to. I'm laying down a robotics in case he's going for Dark Templar now. And as this replay wraps up, I'll be laying down a forge as well for my +1 upgrade and a potential for cannons. I'm even going to be adding on gateways 3 and 4. This will allow me to either hype up my aggression a little bit more and try to do a little bit more damage, set up a stronger contain, or just defend in case my opponent once again is doing something counter-aggressive. So, in this build, we saw that we just opened up very standard. We're going to open up with a 13 gateway, 2 gases on 15. When I take these gases, only put 2 units on each of the gases. This is not a very gas-heavy build. You don't need to get lots and lots of units on those gases. As we progress into the build, lay down a 19 gateway, save up your Chrono Boost, and Chrono Boost your first Stalker and your Warp Gate tech out, and then as soon as that second gateway finishes and your resources allow it, Chrono Boost out your 2 additional Stalkers and begin rallying your Mothership Core and your Stalkers out across the map. As you're getting ready to ramp up your aggression, set up your contain, lay down your Nexus, begin pushing in, have those Chrono Boosts ready on those Warp Gates, and on the Warp Gate technology, I should say, and then the Warp Gates, so that you can continue warping and stuff, because at this point your opponent's probably going to be kind of upset with you and being trying to go for either some big counterattack or just push you off and then move out across the map to try to kill you off after that, because, well, you're expanding. The last big note that I want to say about this build, let me make sure I got everything here. This is not a kill build. You can kill super greedy, set up contain, get a macro lead. Yes, that's right. If you lose this Nexus, it is not that big of a deal. You took a fairly early Nexus in this. It's kind of greedy. And if you lose it, yeah, it hurts, but you're not dead and out of the game. you're not dead and out of the game. Especially with this robotics on the field, you can start getting immortals out on the map, go for some sort of counterattack, but don't just leave the game, and be prepared to sack this expansion, because this is a pretty greedy build. And in the next video that you guys will probably be seeing, you'll kind of get an idea how to do this a little bit more defensively if you don't want to go for such a greedy build. So that's really all I have for this replay here. Once again, this is a two-part video. The next one I'm going to show is going to be a variant of this build. It's going to be the 2-gate Robo expansion. And instead of using your units aggressively to push out and try to do some damage, you're going to use them defensively, ward off any sort of proxies, any sort of aggression, but for the most part, keep yourself back home. Thank you for watching this video. As always, subscribe if you like it. Leave a comment down below if you have any questions. Also, in the description of this video will be the notes I took for... I'm pointing over to my second screen. There will be the notes that I took for this video, so you guys can kind of get an idea of what I was thinking, kind of get a little bit of a layout about what it should look like. And I will also have an email address down there as well as other contact information if you so desire. Until next time, guys, thank you again for watching, and this is Coffee Break, signing out.